Charles Manson, a name synonymous with terror and madness, stands as one of the most notorious figures in American criminal history. His life and actions form a dark and twisted narrative, marked by manipulation, violence, and a chilling ability to control others. This biography delves into the eerie existence of a man who orchestrated one of the most infamous crime sprees of the 20th century, leaving a legacy of fear that continues to haunt the collective psyche. Charles Mills Manson was born on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati, Ohio, to Kathleen Maddox, a 16-year-old runaway with a troubled past. Manson's early years were chaotic and unstable. His mother was frequently absent, leaving him in the care of various relatives and foster homes. Manson's childhood was marked by neglect, abuse, and frequent run-ins with the law, setting the stage for a life of crime. Manson spent much of his youth in reform schools and juvenile detention centers, where he learned to survive through manipulation and cunning. By the time he reached adulthood, he had a lengthy criminal record, including charges of theft, forgery, and pimping. Despite his criminal activities, Manson possessed a magnetic charisma and a keen understanding of human psychology, skills he would later use to devastating effect. In the late 1960s, Manson moved to San Francisco, where he immersed himself in the counterculture movement. Charismatic and enigmatic, he quickly attracted a group of devoted followers, predominantly young women, whom he dubbed the Family. Manson positioned himself as a guru, espousing a bizarre philosophy that combined elements of the Bible, Scientology, and his own twisted ideology. Manson's teachings centered around an apocalyptic race war he called Helter Skelter, a term he borrowed from a Beatles song. He convinced his followers that they were destined to survive this cataclysm and rule over the survivors. Manson's ability to manipulate his followers was profound. He exploited their vulnerabilities, using a mix of drugs, psychological control, and charismatic authority to maintain a tight grip over them. The family lived communally, first in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco, and later on the Spahn Ranch, a dilapidated movie set in the California desert. Life at Spahn Ranch was a blend of free love, drug use, and Manson's increasingly paranoid and violent rhetoric. He demanded absolute loyalty and obedience, and any dissent was met with harsh punishment. The Manson family's reign of terror reached its horrific climax in the summer of 1969. Manson, frustrated by his failed attempts to secure a music career and increasingly obsessed with Helter Skelter, decided it was time to incite the race war he had predicted. He ordered his followers to carry out a series of brutal murders intended to spark widespread chaos. On the night of August 8, 1969, Manson sent 4 of his followers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to the home of actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski. Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, was hosting friends Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojciech Frykowski. Over the course of the night, the Manson family brutally murdered all 5 occupants, writing messages like "pig" in blood on the walls. The following night, Manson accompanied his followers on a second killing spree. Their victims were Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, a wealthy couple living in Los Angeles. Again, the murders were exceptionally brutal, and messages such as "death to pigs" were left at the crime scene. Manson believed these murders would be blamed on the Black Panther Party, thereby igniting his prophesied race war. The sheer brutality of the killings shocked the nation. Sharon Tate, who was only 26 years old and due to give birth in a few weeks, was stabbed 16 times. Jay Sebring, her friend and a celebrity hairstylist, was also stabbed multiple times and shot. Abigail Folger, the heiress to the Folger coffee fortune, and her boyfriend, Wojciech Frykowski, were both savagely attacked. The LaBianca murders were no less gruesome, with both victims subjected to multiple stab wounds and left with utensils embedded in their bodies. The Manson family murders sent shockwaves through the nation, shattering the peace and love facade of the 1960s counterculture. The police initially struggled to connect the crimes, but by the end of 1969, Several members of the Manson family were arrested on unrelated charges. Susan Atkins's confession to a fellow inmate led to the group's indictment for the Tate and LaBianca murders. The trial of Charles Manson and his followers was a media circus, drawing international attention. Manson's bizarre behavior, including carving an X into his forehead, later modified into a swastika, and attempting to intimidate the judge and jury, only added to the spectacle. Despite his lack of direct involvement in the murders, Manson's control over his followers was evident, and he was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. On January 25, 1971, Manson and 3 of his followers, Atkins, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten, were sentenced to death. However, their sentences were commuted to life imprisonment when California abolished the death penalty in 1972. Manson spent the rest of his life in prison, where he continued to attract a following, both inside and outside the prison walls. Manson's life behind bars was a testament to his enduring influence and the macabre fascination he inspired. He gave numerous interviews, maintaining his erratic and cryptic demeanor, and his image became a cultural icon of evil. Despite his incarceration, Manson's aura of malevolence continued to exert a dark pull on the public imagination. Charles Manson's legacy is one of unrelenting darkness. His life and actions serve as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the destructive power of charismatic leadership. Manson was not just a killer, he was a master manipulator who wielded psychological control over his followers, turning them into instruments of his twisted vision. Manson's crimes have been extensively studied by criminologists, psychologists, and sociologists, seeking to understand the mind of a man who could inspire such blind devotion and violence. His story has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, each attempting to unravel the enigma of a man who seemed to embody pure evil. The horror of Manson's actions also led to significant changes in how society views cults and charismatic leaders. His ability to manipulate and control others highlighted the dangers of unchecked authority and the vulnerability of individuals seeking meaning and belonging. The Manson family murders stand as a grim testament to the potential for darkness within human nature and the catastrophic consequences of ideological fanaticism. Manson's influence extended beyond his lifetime, inspiring a wave of cult-related violence and paranoia in the decades that followed. The term Manson family became synonymous with the dangers of cults, prompting increased scrutiny and regulation of such groups. His life and crimes continue to serve as a cautionary tale about the seductive power of charismatic leaders and the ease with which they can exploit and corrupt those who follow them. As we reflect on Charles Manson's life, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and the thin line between charisma and madness. Manson was the puppeteer of darkness, a predator who manipulated others to carry out his horrific vision, and his story is a haunting chapter in the annals of crime. The impact of Manson's terror is still felt today. Survivors of the Manson family's attacks and the families of their victims continue to grapple with the trauma and loss inflicted by his monstrous acts. Memorials and remembrance ceremonies honor those who were taken too soon, ensuring that their names are remembered and their stories are not overshadowed by the infamy of their killer. Manson's legacy also serves as a stark warning about the dangers of superficial charm and the potential for evil within seemingly ordinary individuals. His ability to blend into society, gaining the trust and admiration of those around him, highlights the importance of not taking appearances at face value. In the end, Charles Manson was a man whose outward charm masked a soul consumed by darkness. His life was a chilling testament to the capacity for human evil, and his story will continue to be told as a cautionary tale for generations to come. The puppeteer of darkness may have died, but his shadow lingers, a grim reminder of the horrors that can hide behind the most beguiling of facades. Charles Manson died on November 19, 2017, at the age of 83, from natural causes. His death marked the end of an era, but the legacy of his evil lives on. Manson's story remains a potent reminder of the dangers posed by charismatic leaders who prey on the vulnerable, and the enduring impact of his crimes continues to be felt across the world. His life and actions are a stark testament to the potential for darkness within humanity and the need for vigilance against those who seek to exploit it.